So remember when everyone said that Brian Kelly was crazy to think that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So remember when everyone said that Brian Kelly was crazy to say that LSU was going to the national championship in 2025? He's leaving no stone unturned for Garrett Nussmier to be QB1 in the face of college football as Nic Anderson, the former 4-star wide receiver from Oklahoma, is headed down to Baton Rouge to catch passes from the gunslinger. Let's break it all down. Welcome on into SEC Unfiltered. He's Dave Shumate. I'm Cole Thompson. And today we grade the signing of transfer portal edition Nic Anderson from Sooner Country. Real quickly, make sure that you like the video, hit the ring notification down below, and of course, subscribe to the channel. Download the podcast version of the show wherever you get your podcast listening systems. Follow us on the socials, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at SEC Unfiltered. Follow Dave at Mock 10 Sports, me at Mr. Cole Thompson, and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. This episode is brought to you by our friends over at Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com and use the promo code SECU at sign up to get a $50 instant play when you play your first $5 lineup. $50 when you play $5. It's really simple math. It's the #1 college football fantasy app. So go to prizepicks.com, use the promo code SECU. Dave, I love the fit. I personally love what we are seeing down in Tiger Stadium. Death Valley is going big for 2025. Brian Kelly, the boosters are putting their money where their mouth are. They understand. They have the right people at the helm. They're bringing in the resources that are going to make this team ferocious. And I will say, yes, losing CJ Daniels I thought was a big deal. Yes, losing Kyron Lacy is going to be a hindrance to the team's success. But when you're adding in guys like Barian Brown and you fortify that with the complimentary piece of Nic Anderson, who when he was at his peak at Oklahoma in 2023, this is a 10-touchdown, double-digit, double-catch radius per game machine. You're adding in some players and you're upgrading the room altogether.
Yeah, I mean, total opposite approach that we've been talking about in our SEC Unfiltered group message with Chris and a couple of other guys from the SEC Unfiltered family. But total opposite approach here from Brian Kelly and LSU. And I think a lot of that has to do because the Ducks are in line here. You got Austin Thomas, who came from Ole Miss, brought that model they'd used from the portal from Ole Miss. So you're seeing kind of the fruit of that labor. Again, Austin didn't get to touch the roster last year because I think he got to LSU in like August. So the roster is already set for the 2024 team. But now you're seeing it. Brian Kelly called his shot, just like Babe Ruth did, damn near about. But no, I mean, give LSU credit. They're hot. I'm with you. I think Nic Anderson's one of my favorite takes anyone has had out of the transfer portal. You can usually find holes with a lot of these transfer portal guys because they're leaving for a reason. Outside of just the quad injury that he couldn't overcome this year at Oklahoma, you had to love what he did in 2023. I think he makes up a big hole that LSU has on the roster, but also they added Barian Brown too. So I mean, LSU I think has done a phenomenal. LSU and Texas A&M have done a phenomenal job at the wide receiver spot.
What I can really appreciate is that they've added in pieces to better their quarterbacks. They realize that the situation is all predicated on QB1 living up to expectations. Garrett Nussmier comes back. Michael Van Buren kind of taking on that new role as being the Dante Moore of the 2025 class. If he is to win out the starting job, you know what? No problem there because there's a lot of expectations that he may end up being better than Garrett Nussmier in the long haul, but regardless, they're giving their quarterbacks weapons to work with. I love Nic Anderson, multiple 100-yard gains back in 2023, big-time performances against West Virginia, big-time game against Arizona where he had the big touchdown catch. I thought that there was going to be a little bit of speculation that maybe he and Jackson Arnold would reunite. They were a package deal because when you go back and you watch them in that game against Arizona down in the Alamo Bowl in San Antonio, there was a lot to like about where they sat. And I felt like that this was a team that probably could have seen better results if you just had Anderson on the field. You would have seen better results if you had Arnold on the field with a guy like Anderson. But what you're doing is you're pairing a guy with speed with size. Barian Brown is known for his vertical threat speed. He is somebody that is going to take the tops off of defenses and just let it fly. Anderson is going to win with physicality and frame. 6'4". The guy turns 50-50 balls into 70-30 passes and sometimes even 90-10 balls. So that's what you can like about this move. I think that what you're trying to do by adding in a player such as Anderson's capabilities is say, we're leaving no stone unturned. We're making sure that we bring in the right personnel, we're bringing in the right players, and we're absolutely guaranteeing our quarterbacks to have zero margin for error. I love the fact they brought in Bauer Sharp, the tight end. I love the fact they have Barian Brown. Basically, every player that has left the transfer portal has been added by a new piece coming in via the portal.
Yeah, no, I mean, Nic Anderson's play could win at all three levels. You're right. 6'4", when you think of 6'4", a lot of times it's these wiry guys. Again, not all these guys are AJ Green or DK Metcalf. But he plays with some natural, just pure strength. With an initial tackler struggles to tackle him. Cole, you mentioned some games, man. He had the big catch, I think, from Dylan Gabriel for Oklahoma in 2023
in the Red River shootout. Yeah.
Yeah, I had the one that finally put him over the edge there. So again, there's proven production. Was it this past year? No, but it sounds like the lingering injury from the quad. Again, I haven't heard from people I talked to there was any off the field stuff with him. I literally think the dude was just battling injuries, and you're going to take run on him depending when you're trying to replace some of these guys you've lost from LSU. And again, CJ Daniels is fine. Nothing wrong against him. I mean, he's going to Miami now, but I do think LSU's wide receiver room, probably outside of Kyron Lacey, probably will be better than it was this year. You got Xavier Thomas coming back. You added Barry and Brown. You got Aaron Anderson. I mean, there's a lot of complementary wide receiver pieces there across the board there. If you maybe go find some tight end, a couple of tight ends you could go take advantage of there. I think LSU, Garrett Nussmier, got their backup quarterback kind of settled. They've done it. LSU, one of the big portal winners so far.
LSU has made sure that they will be competitive in all three stages of the game: offense, defense, special teams in 2025. And that's big because Brian Kelly said, judge me in year 3. Well, here was the judgment. You got to trust the portal. You got to go out and add in the right pieces. You have to play the game. You can't just rely heavily on recruiting. You can't just rely heavily on coaching. It has to be more than that. And you got to give a lot of credit where credit's due. The way this defense has played at times this year, they've looked like a team that can kind of work their way through the trepided waters, but eventually you got to get over that hump. That's doing it now. Now we're judging you in year 3. In year 3, you opened up your eyes and said, if I want to be competitive, if I want to win in the SEC, I'm going to have to spend some money. I'm going to have to get the right people to spend some money. I'm going to have to put my money where my mouth is. And if that's what it takes to bring in players like Nic Anderson, bring in players like Barry and Brown, bring in the guy, the Florida edge player, you're adding in the right names that currently are going to better your team for 2025 and be right at the forefront of college football playoff berth. Having a veteran quarterback helps. I think you still have to go add in some players on the offensive line to bolster up your roster for depth purposes. But LSU is a big-time winner. Dave, let's grade the move of Nic Anderson. You already have broken this down before. All elite, elite plus, elite minus, FPO. What kind of grade do you give a guy such as Nic Anderson for this offense in Baton Rouge?
Let me pull it up for us here, Bear, so I can share it while she's uploading. 1 second. There we go. All elite. All right, so just so people obviously know what this is, let me pull it up for you right here. All right, so for example, guys, again, you'll see the A&M players as examples because, again, me and Cole have been going back and forth doing these reactions. So it's kind of just the examples here. Again, elite, rare. Me and Cole aren't going to be giving out a lot of rare, elite type of grades here. But those are the Travis Hunter, Caleb Williams, Will Andersons, Jeremiah Smiths of the world. All league, again, high-end player here. For sure, year 1 or year 2 starter, has the talent to be the SEC contributor year 1, projects to be a future all-conference player, high NFL draft pick. Winnable plus, this is going to be where a lot of your players are. It's going to be the core of your team. You can have majority of your team in this winnable plus range. You're going to win a lot of games. Not an immediate SEC starter. I mean, again, we're talking a lot of this is high school. These are my former grading system we used at Georgia and Oregon across the board. Not an immediate SEC starter, but projects to be a reliable SEC starter at some point. Likely in year 2 or year 3, could have a chance to be a first-year contributor in certain situations. Has high upside, projects to be an NFL draftable player. Winnable minus, guys that you just essentially, without reading the whole paragraph, it's a guy that you can win with, but you're going to have to surround him with other good players. He's just kind of a key cog in this, but just can't really do it by himself. Again, no one can do it by themselves, but he's a guy you just kind of a role player to expect. And then a JAG, POI, just a guy, prospect of interest. Obviously, we're probably not grading a lot of these guys. For me, Cole, before we get into I'm gonna go winnable plus here. I'm gonna go winnable plus. Add him in there. I actually think overall the higher upsides here with Nic Anderson over Barry and Brown. Barry and Brown has the more proven production grain of the quarterback situations, something for another day. But I'm going to go winnable plus here. I think, again, this is where most of your roster is going to be if you have a really good roster. Give me the winnable plus range here. I think he's going to meet. I think you got to tweak it a little bit when you're talking portal guys. He is an immediate starter, an immediate contributor. I think the ceiling's to the roof. Now, you may not see a lot in the spring or spring game from him because he may still be nursing that quad, and I could see some LSU people being like, oh, gosh, like, why is this guy not playing? Just give it all the way through fall camp. I think we'll see. Maybe LSU's tempering that a little bit. Love the takes at wide receiver overall, but I think this Nic Anderson take is a winnable plus for me.
Winnable plus as well. I think that when you pair him alongside with the speed of Barrion Brown, the physicality of what he brings at 6'4", he is a little bit lanky. You know, when you look at his numbers overall, he only weighs about 219 pounds. You probably want to get him up to maybe 225, 230, just be able to handle the pressure playing in the SEC consistently. But he's got a big catch radius. He averaged over 23 yards per catch in 2023. So that's going to add some value. 10 total touchdowns on the year in 2023. I think that that's going to benefit Garrett Nussmier, and everything is about making sure that Nuss is comfortable as the starting quarterback, making sure that this team can withstand any competition it goes up against. Ole Miss, Alabama, they played Georgia in the SEC championship. If they were to play against Kentucky, if they would play against Kentucky, they would play against Vanderbilt again, Oklahoma in the rematch when they travel to Norman next year. Everything is about making sure that Nuss has zero issue whatsoever when it comes to dissecting the football. So we both agree, winnable plus player. I think that he is going to add tremendous value to this wide receiver room without taking reps away from a guy in Bauer Sharp, without taking reps away from Aaron Anderson. He's only going to enhance what is currently going on down in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, for what feels like a very promising 2025 start based off of on paper. However, this is all on paper. We got to see it actually produce on the field.
Yeah, no, Baron, they look like they've gotten their wide receiver stocked up. LSU has a plan now. It looks like I just read something from Pete Nako saying they're moving on to the offensive line. They're going after the Washington
State transfer.
Everybody's leaving Washington State now. You're the head coach. Yeah. Falalia, sorry if I'm mispronouncing Famio. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing his name. 6'5", 314.
Good interior offensive lineman.
Past 2 years. I mean, again, all these kids have holes, but again, I mean, that's experience. You're playing on the offensive line. They got to replace that. So they have a plan here, and this is what I've been saying. Brian Kelly, for the last 2 or 3 years, I think thought you could just come collect this talent because, again, like we said, the previous 3 coaches all won national championships. Nick Saban, Les Miles, Ed Orgeron. A lot of people would consider 2 of those 3 guys just complete goon squad members. So I think a lot of people just think you can walk in and do it. It's a little different, but I'll say this. He's made some hires here on the back end that I think are going to change the total trajectory of what LSU is going to be. That's why it kind of felt like year 3 was more of year 1. You know what I'm saying, Bear? Just got to think because a little of the mistakes early. But give him credit. When you had to go make adjustments, Brian Kelly hired the right guys on the defensive side of the ball and got the right personnel staff in there to make some changes as well.
Let us know what your grade is on Nic Anderson headed down to Baton Rouge to be wide receiver 2 or maybe wide receiver 1 for Garrett Nussmier in 2025. For Dave Shumate, I am Cole Thompson. Like, review, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below because we're talking college football every single day. Download the podcast version of the show and check out all of our great work found at SECUnfiltered.com. By the way, follow us on the socials. Link in the description. For Dave Shumate, I am Cole Thompson. Tigers, you got a number 2 or maybe a number 1. Peace.